Hello and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig.
Hello.
This is the sixth episode, and
Yes.
today we're gonna talk about how and why game developers should make more games. Over to you,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes. So, our perhaps controversial opinion is, as Edward said, that developers should make or should focus on making more games.
I don't need to be honest. I don't even know if it is a controversial one anymore.
Yeah, probably. I think it depends who you ask.
Yeah, it definitely. Well, that makes it not controversial, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Sorry, keep on.
Yeah. So, we believe that in like game developer culture in general, there seems to be a lot of focus on putting all your effort into one big, hyper successful project that you spend years and years of your life working at and like making it the perfect game. And we think that this is bad for the gaming industry and just like game design in general. So like this is not only a game design topic, I guess. It's also like a game industry topic.
Yeah, but I think we're gonna focus on it a bit more on the design side, or try to at least.
Yeah, well, we've got some points that are both,
Sure,
I think.
yeah.
So yeah, let's start with the first point then.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, it seems like a lot of developers, both AAA and indie, focus a lot on making like the perfect game possible.
Yes.
Right? And
I mean,
you know,
like there's a lot of like unfortunate examples. For example, last year, what was it called? The big one.
Concord.
Yeah, Concord, for example.
Yeah.
It's like they
8 years of development.
they were like clearly delusional about that game.
Yeah,
Right? It was like, oh, it's gonna be the best thing ever, and it's yeah. No one knew. It seemed like, I mean, I don't want to put words in their mouths or whatever, right? But it seemed like no one was really knew what they were doing there. I don't know.
Yeah.
They were just, this is gonna be great, and it was very clear it was not gonna be great. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think also like you can see it clearly. This is something I think that's not controversial, that I think people generally like complain about, and that's that AAA developers aren't really releasing games anymore, right? And
yes,
some of that is because if you look back to like the early 2000s or the 2010s, there were like big releases like, you know, I don't know, like the Mass Effect games, didn't they come out, the 3 Mass Effect games, didn't they come out in like a span of 4 years or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's
I
like,
don't have the years there. But
yeah, I think the first one was like 2008 and the last one was like 2011 or something. I'm not sure. But like today, like 4 years, that's not even enough for one game for most game developers. And BioWare put out 3 as well as a few Dragon Ages, I think. So it's like, you know, obviously today it's like, oh yeah, you know, there's a Call of Duty every year, I guess. I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But like other than that, not really a lot of developers are like making a lot of games or releasing a lot of games.
Yes.
And I think this is something, as I said, that's sort of people recognize. It's like, oh yeah, AAA developers aren't making games anymore. They're just, and I think one of the things that people kind of point to when they talk about this is live service, which I think they have a point, but I don't think that's the full reason, and we're gonna go into that today.
I mean, you could make live service games that are more reasonable as well. So I don't
think
that's an issue.
But I think
I don't like them, but like I don't think that's why they're.
Well, I think the main argument that people have is that since developers are releasing live service games, they don't release as many games, right? Because they spend more time updating the old games.
Yeah, but what I mean is that they don't, like, obviously this is different from studio to studio, but I feel like a lot of the studios, well, I guess, it depends on what kind of live service it is, yes, but a lot of them do like have small teams to do the live service part and just keep going with new stuff. But I don't think that's necessarily an issue, even though I really don't like live service, right?
No. but I think it's like it's used as a reason for why games aren't released as often, I think.
Yeah, so I would like to counter argue that and say that I think for me there is two potential reasons, right?
Yeah.
Why? One of them is what you mentioned earlier, which is just perfectionism or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
where I think the companies just want to make the biggest and best game ever all the time, and it's causing them issues. And it's getting worse over time because of my second, the second reason I think why it's taking longer, which is that the developers are not as skilled because they're spending all this time making the perfect game, which means they're not learning the skills they need to make games. So it's taking longer and longer because they're less and less experienced.
I wouldn't even say this is just the case for AAA games, though. I would say this is also
a
thing
for sure.
that's happening with indie games.
Yeah, you see that all the time where people are like, they're trying to make the best game. Like, okay, so like if we go back to like the Flash era, a lot of the developers that made games in that era are really skilled indie devs these days, or AAA, because the way you made games in that era is you made a lot of games because they were free, right? And you made, it was like ads and stuff, right? Or sometimes
you made a bunch of small shit.
Right. Which means they got a lot of experience and got really good at making games, and now they're making like Edmund Macmillan or whatever, right? They're making Binding of Isaac and stuff. So
and I mean, if you look at like I don't know, if you look at a lot of indie devs today, in quotation marks, you'll see a lot of them being like, oh yeah, I've poured like 4 years of my life into this this game, it's my baby, and like when it releases and it doesn't sell well, they're disappointed, which obviously that's sad, but it's not unexpected, right?
I forgot that point. Exactly, like you said. My point was gonna be with that these days people don't do that. They're like they do like you said, they just spend all this time thinking about how they're gonna make the greatest game ever, where I think the correct approach would be to just make games they like, and like a lot of them, and not care so much about what people think in the beginning, just to like learn how to make good games.
I think you'll see a lot of tutorials on YouTube or stuff like that, or if you look at the Unity or Godot community, I think that's a very big like part of that culture, I think. And I don't know, I think it's weird. On the other hand, though, I don't know, because if you look at those people, like the Unity Godot people, it's like, it seems like there's either a big like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make the best game ever, I'm gonna spend 8 years on it, and it's gonna be a massive success, I'm gonna make Stardew Valley 2, or Hollow Knight 2, or whatever. Or they go like in the opposite way, where it's like they only do game jams.
Which might be better, I don't know.
I don't know. Game jams are maybe a topic for another day, because there's a lot to say. But I think perhaps the difference there is that game jams are sort of not released, right? And so we say that, oh yeah, you should make a bunch of shitty games, but you should also release them, right?
Well, you shouldn't make a bunch of shitty games. I think. I mean, or you should do that as well. Actually, you should make some shit just for skill. But I think you need the experience of making like full titles. So like let's say, I don't know a reasonable number because people argue about this all the time, right? But let's say we make a game that we can make in 2 years, right? We make sure that we don't think about things too much, or that sounds very bad, but like well, let's say we're making I don't know, an RPG or something, and maybe we don't have base building or whatever, right? Maybe we scope it down a bit, or I don't know. Because like the thing is, it's never gonna, how should I say this? Like striving for the perfect game is not gonna work, right? If you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And you can't know what you're doing without experience, right?
Yeah, and it's sort of... Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sort of becomes this weird situation where like someone's getting into making their own game, like indie game or whatever, and they spend the first game they make, they spend several years, and it kind of sucks because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's if they would have spent the 4 years that they spent on making one game, making 4 games, like 1 game a year, the 4th game that they released, the 4th year, would have been way better than the game that they spent making 4 years when they don't have any experience, right?
Yeah, and that is sort of like scientifically proven as well, that just producing more creates better quality over time.
Yeah.
There's like studies and stuff. And
yeah, like I can think... I don't know how to draw, for example.
Yeah.
And if someone said like, oh, you have a week to draw a perfect apple or something.
Yeah.
Would I spend that week on a single painting, drawing, like actually spending like several hours on like each centimeter of the painting? Yeah. No, I would draw like 5,000 apples, and then the last one I did, I was like, this is pretty good, and then I give that, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good apple, good job, bro.
Yeah, and like I think, not to get too technical since we're focusing on game design, but I think just like getting the entire process. So like, okay, we're setting up the project, okay, we're doing all the stuff, we're putting together like the art and the sound and the code, and like, okay, we're fixing the bugs, okay, we're prepping for releasing it on this platform, okay, and then we're whatever. I mean, sometimes you have companies doing that for you, but then interacting with those companies, right? You get the entire process down. It gets easier over time for you to like... Yeah, like you said, like it's gonna be more. You're gonna be more comfortable drawing the apple after a while, right? So if you're gonna be more comfortable with the things, right? If let's say you're making RPGs, you're gonna. It's really hard to like. I don't know, explain this, but if you do let's say you do 10 RPGs, right? Someone that's done 10 RPGs, they just know some weird stuff about how to set up like coding systems for RPGs, or like art pipelines for RPGs, or whatever that person is doing, right? They just know things because they've done it so many times, and maybe that's not the optimal way to do it. Maybe there's a better way, but that doesn't matter because they just have a process for it, right? That's the thing, and that helps a lot. And I think it helps them focus on what's important. I think a lot of the time what happens is you design this game, but you don't know the answer to a lot of questions, which makes it harder to focus on the design. Because you're thinking about all this other stuff. Yeah.
I think, wasn't it, it's funny that you said RPGs. Maybe you're thinking of the same thing as me. Wasn't it Larian Studios CEO that said like, oh yeah, the reason Baldur's Gate 3 is good is because we've made so many RPGs, or something like that?
Yeah, I wasn't actually thinking about that, but yeah, that's true actually, yeah. They have said things like that.
Yeah, because like Baldur's Gate 3, like it's the massive success, super hit, and Larian has done so many RPGs.
Yeah.
Like they've done all of the Divinity ones, I think, or did they not do the first one?
I think they did most.
And so like that's a studio of experienced RPG developers. Obviously, if they make another RPG, they're gonna make a good RPG, right?
Yeah. And you can also see that they have like acquired a certain taste about how they want to do it, which is also like I think underappreciated. Like sometimes it's not about making it correct, it's about finding a, in quotation marks, correct way to do it, right? It's like okay, we like they have their like style of solving certain design issues, right? Which they have acquired over time.
Because I think if you look at Larian, for example, I think they very much have a style of sort of immersive sim RPGs, I guess. Like they are very systematic and very you blow up an oil barrel and there's an oil spill,
Yes,
and then
yeah.
you light fire to the oil and the oil starts burning, stuff like that. And I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but from what I've seen, it looks very similar to that. So it's obviously a Larian Studios game, right?
Yeah. And a funny thing with this is, even though we were talking about like this on the individual level, like a designer designing, this is actually funny enough, even more important in a team, because you'll have a programmer and a designer or whatever, or an artist, and it's actually like over time they will learn each other's language. Like they'll know, like the designer will say something and the programmer will be like, okay, I know what this guy wants, without
like
him saying
Divinity 2 or something.
Like if we're thinking about like Larian again, right, it could be like things like how the programmer set up the like level editing tools or whatever for the designers, because they know what the designers want, because they've worked together for so long. And that's like super important if you want to, because
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that makes the process fast. Like ironically, it makes it faster to make games as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's not only that the quality goes up if you make many games. It actually makes the quality go up and production go faster.
Yeah.
So
I think
now you can.
One very important point I want to like focus on is that releasing the game gives so much feedback.
Yeah.
And that feedback is incredibly valuable, because if we say in a hypothetical scenario that Larian worked never made an RPG before, and they worked on Baldur's Gate 3 for like 10 years. I don't know how long they worked on it for, but let's say they worked on it for 10 years. During those 10 years, they don't really get any feedback about what's working and what's not working, right?
Yeah.
And so, if something isn't working in a good way, there's often, like, someone needs to see that and be like, oh yeah, that's not working. But when you release a game, you have a bunch of people telling you what's not working, right? Everyone's trying to tell you what they hate about your game. And so, like...
There's also like a psychological aspect to that, where like people that were there, right? Let's say a manager or whatever managing the team, they'll be more invested in, like, let's say they made a mechanic and like the team realizes after 5 years that the mechanic is not working. It's gonna be harder to drop the mechanic after 5 years. Especially for that like manager or whatever, because it's like they're managing that, right? So it's like they don't wanna it's like sunk costs, right? So they
because if you release the game after 3 years, all of the people who played your game are gonna say that mechanic sucked. And then you know that, and then you don't have it in your next game. So the feedback from actually releasing your game, I think, is invaluable.
Also, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if we're developing a game for 10 years, one thing to think about is that a lot of the people working on these games do not stay that long because of how these developers are structured these days. So it's not even the same people that made the original design that released the final game. And then on top of that, like we said earlier, they're not experienced, right? So it's like if we make a not Larian, like a bad Larian, right? We would be like, okay, we're gonna make this amazing RPG and we're gonna have 10 years to develop it, and then they hire some people and they start doing it, and then over time it's gonna be like the people that get there in the end, they're not gonna understand, like, not the code, not the design, not the tools, nothing, and it's like, and they don't have any experience either because they're new or whatever, right? I mean, they might be from other studios, but that's not exactly the same either. It's obviously gonna help that they have prior experience, help a lot, but it's also, you need experience with those people in that case.
I think one example we always talk about is DICE, right?
DICE,
because Battlefield 3 and 4, they were like super popular or whatever, I think even up to Battlefield 1, I think was the most sold Battlefield game. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's when they had like multiple projects going there, I think.
Exactly.
And that was too much.
Yeah.
They were doing like Mirror's
And
Edge,
so-
Catalyst, I think, and
Yeah,
Battlefield 1
right.
at the same time, and then they split up and made
And Battlefront, right?
and Battlefront, yes, and then
Yeah.
they split up and made Embark.
Yeah. So the reason we bring up this example is because like Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042, which are the games that came out after that split,
Yeah.
are like generally considered to be quite terrible. And for those of you who don't know, maybe I should explain. I think it was around 2018. I don't remember. 2020, somewhere around there, where like a lot of experienced Battlefield developers basically left and made their own studio.
Yeah. Which
And
is called
so,
Embark.
yeah, and it's called Embark.
Yeah, if you want to look it up. They made the finals.
Yes. And funnily enough, side point here, or well, I guess this is actually the main point I'm trying to make here. It's that if you compare something like Battlefield 2042 to the finals, which is made by Embark, you will instantly, the second you start the game, you will notice that the people who made Battlefield 3 and 4 and whatever are the people who made the finals.
Yeah, for sure.
And that Battlefield 2042 are made by some complete random people who are not DICE, even though it's made by the name DICE, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very...
I mean,
I think it's very... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in theory, they could get the experience to... Like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's say it's like super passionate Battlefield fans that play a lot of Battlefield. They're probably not, but you know, let's pretend. And they're like, they play it so much and they know everything, and they're hired by DICE, and even if they are that, they are not getting, like, they made like 2 Battlefields since then, right?
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
not getting the experience they need to make Battlefield.
Like, how long was it between Battlefield 3 and 4? Let's Google. Battlefield 3 came out in 2011 and Battlefield 4 came out in... Fuck, I can't see. 2013. That's 2 years.
Yeah.
2 Battlefield games in 2 years.
Yeah.
And when did Battlefield 2042 come out?
Well, they did 1 as well, but...
Yeah, but hold on,
which is confusing, and it's called 1, but
yes,
it's the 5th.
Well, Battlefield 2042 was still the same people, right?
2042?
Yeah. No, sorry, Battlefield 1, my bad.
Yeah, Battlefield 1 was the same. That's
Yeah.
what I said.
So yeah, Battlefield 2042 came out in 2021. That's 4 years ago. So and Battlefield 6 is coming out this year, right?
Yeah.
So they made twice as many Battlefield games back when DICE was good in quotation marks, right? And so obviously...
But then they also had that experience of making like 10 more Battlefields before that.
Yeah, exactly, because it's the same people who made Bad Company and Battlefield 2 and whatever. But it's like the people who are now there who didn't work on those games, they're not getting the experience, right? Because it takes them twice as long to make a Battlefield game as it did for the old guys.
Yeah.
And you know, it's sort of, it's such a good way to lose experience, because even if the original Battlefield devs didn't stay, you know, if they released more games, there would be more like experience kept between every game, right? Because if you're developing a game for 8 years and then the entire experienced part of your team leaves, and so it's only the inexperienced guys left, like, you lose all of the experience. But if you make like a game every 2 years, and you know, after 4 years all of the experienced people have left, the inexperienced people are experienced, right? Because they made 4 games or 2 games. I forgot the numbers I said.
Yeah, I mean, it ties back to what we said about variants and RPGs. That you need experience over time, and like to like think more about why this is. I think we can tie back to what you said about live service. I don't necessarily think it's live service fault, but
no,
I think there is a lack of focus. So it's like you said, they're trying to make these perfect games that are everything. It's like an MMO with base building and PvP and everything, right? And first of all, that's it's not. I don't know. It doesn't seem that economically smart to me, anyways.
No.
Like if you look at the biggest games, it's like Fortnite, which is battle royale only, right?
Yeah.
So why would you want a game that is
Well,
everything? That seems like a lot of resources
Yeah.
into a lot of games that no one wants.
Yeah.
But also it makes your designers not as like they can't focus. How should I say this? Like let's say we instead make only like Battlefield or whatever we make.
Yeah.
Or let's use that as an example. You make like a shooter. Then you get a lot of more experience and it's more clear to the team what you're doing, right? And you can focus in. But if you look at a lot of the modern games, even those games like shooters, right?
Yeah.
They have all these modes and all these things. Like I think the newest Battlefield is gonna be like, it's gonna have multiplayer and single player and co-op and
Battle Royale.
Yeah. And it's like all these things. And I understand where they're doing it because they're like, it's like, I don't know. Do I understand? I don't know if I do understand, but I think I understand. It's like, okay, they're doing this to justify the price, and then they want it to be really big, but I don't know. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's healthy for the studio. I think they would be better off making like 3 Battlefields and focus on multiplayer, right?
Yeah. And do like, oh yeah, this is the single player Battlefield, and this is the multiplayer Battlefield, and this is the Battlefield Royale. Wow.
Yeah, or just
Instead
not even do that. Just do Battlefield multiplayer. Like focus on what you're good at, and have different studios do different things. I mean, I understand that people don't want to make the same thing all the time, maybe, but then again, it's sort of like like if we take Larian for example. Mm-hmm. And we've seen examples of this in the past, right? If we take Larian and we go, you know what would be good? Like, let's say we are managers of Larian now, and we can decide what they're doing, and we're going, you know what Larian should do? They should make Battlefield.
Yeah.
Do you think that Battlefield would be good?
Maybe better than if DICE did it, to be honest.
I don't think so, actually. I think it would be worse, because there is so much knowledge you need about like technical and design wise, and there's a lot of things involved. First of all, no one at that place would want to do that because they want to do RPGs, so everyone's gonna leave, they're gonna quit, like the designers.
Look at Arcane, for example.
I was gonna bring them up later. Arcane is
Sorry, did I spoil it?
Yeah, you spoiled it, but it's fine. Where was I going? So having focus in your design does matter. Again, especially in teams, because you get this experience over time about like what you're doing. Like, because you can like get some experience from doing other things, obviously, but I think they need to be more adjacent. I don't think you get any value out of just doing some random game. Like trend chasing is not.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree here. I think because for like a corporation such as DICE, who's known for making Battlefield games, obviously they have like the economic what is it, like, not incentive, but the duty to the shareholders, right, to make a bunch of money. So focusing on making Battlefield games is a good idea for that. But I think if you look at smaller studios or even indie developers, I think one of the like biggest benefits of having this mindset that you should make a lot of games is that you can make a lot of different games too, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at, it doesn't even have to be like a solo developer. So you can look at something like Clay, right? They are kind of famous for doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And they obviously become better developers by doing a bit of everything. And so it isn't necessarily that you have to be experienced in making your genre of game and you can only make your genre of game. It's like making a lot of different games also gives you experience, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I think so 2 things there.
Yeah.
One is I think this applies less to bigger studios. Is my first point, because I think the skill not the skill sharing, but like the the interpersonal, right? The
Yeah.
like the developer or the programmer talking to the designer, talking to the artist. That process doesn't necessarily translate as well when you change a lot, like doing, you know, first-person shooter versus doing like a. I mean, it does depend on the studio, but and I think it's harder to change what you're doing at a big place, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy. Like you'll get, like, if you have a studio. Okay, so I think at big scale, I think it's better to have multiple studios that focus on different things, and then you can move people around between the studios, right? So you can have designers. Like, let's say you have one studio making RPGs and one studio making shooters.
Yep.
And then if you want, like, and then you can have designers or programmers like move between the studios. But like the studio is still doing that thing because it helps with the
like the bureaucracy still.
Yeah, like the company image or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we're the shooter team, and we are like, our goals are to make the best shooters. I think that helps like unite the developers in that place, and then you can.
At the same time, I think, you know, I mentioned that Larian RPGs are sort of like immersive sim in a way.
Yeah.
I could definitely see Larian releasing a pretty good immersive sim.
Yeah.
So I think,
but that's sort of adjacent as well. Like I think there's granularity here where, like, if we go back to your example where Arcane made these immersive sims, and then probably some like higher up corporate person trend chasing, thinking we should make like a multiplayer co-op RPG shooter game.
Yeah, looter shooter, right?
And looter shooter, and well, first of all, no one wanted to do that probably.
Yep.
And second of all, so they don't care, right? And they don't have the multiplayer infrastructure. Like, they don't have the people, like the technical people for that probably either. Or maybe they have, but those people don't want to do that. They want to do the stuff they're doing, right? And so I think you need to be a bit careful there. But I do agree with you that you could, like, if you can make people interested in like adjacent things, you can move it around. And I think you're right about doing other things on an individual level is valuable. Like, it's super valuable. But I do still, even though this is gonna be like a bit negative, I guess, I still believe actually that even as a solo dev, if you focus on, let's say you're making action puzzle games or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, Tetris style games, right?
Yeah.
And you do that for 50 years. Maybe you do like some other projects sometimes. But if you're focusing on doing that, you're gonna be the best fucking action puzzle game developer in the universe. I think I don't think you need to focus like that, but I think that doing the same thing will have greater results.
I think you're right, but I think one problem with that you often see is that developers sort of become famous for doing one kind of thing, and it becomes very like uninspiring after a while. So in this example, we have someone who's made like 50 billion versions of Tetris, and it's like by version number 300,000, it's like, okay, he's kind of running out of ideas here. He's just doing something new, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
You get
I get what you're saying. So, but I think that's just... Is that really the person that spent 50 years making Tetris, like, or is that like the guy pumping out 20 of them in 2 years, right? I'm not sure. And also, obviously, the person needs to take it, like, they can't just play. I mean, as a designer, you need to play a lot of different games. That is important. But I don't think you need to make a lot of different games.
I'm not sure I agree. I think it depends a bit. Because I think making games that are different from what you usually make gives you a new perspective, or gives you a new way to look at things, or helps you find new solutions to things, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you always make action games, for example, if you make action platformers, 2D action platformers, and then for some reason you decide to make a Sokoban puzzle game.
Yeah.
I think there are valuable lessons in making a Sokoban
For
puzzle
sure.
game that you can apply to a 2D action side-scroller platformer or whatever.
Yes, I do agree with that. However, I think that if you, let's say we're making 50 games, okay?
Yeah.
And 10 of them are random genres.
Yep.
So we're making one random, whatever genre I felt like that at that time.
Yep.
And the other 40 is the same genre. That game
I think
is gonna
the ratio...
be really. I think that's still gonna quality-wise.
I think the ratio, like, if we're talking about maximizing quality, like making the best Tetris-like, for example.
Yeah.
I think the ratio needs to be a bit more in the random's favor. I think like 50-50.
Yeah, I don't believe that, but that's fine. I mean, I think both could be true, probably. It could depend on the person.
Yeah.
But
I guess it depends on the person.
I think that, I mean, if we go back to like art, right?
Yeah.
I would argue the same thing there, right? Where you would try a lot of different things, but you would still focus on one thing, right?
Yeah.
There's like, it's not that you can't do it and you shouldn't do it. I think you should, if you want to do it, you should do different things. You're not gonna be a bad designer, but I think if you focus on one thing, you're simply gonna be better at doing that thing than the other person. Maybe that person could bring other ideas to it, sure, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
I think there's a risk of... I think it's somewhat a similar point to what you mentioned, that like a good designer should play all kinds of games. And I think the problem is that if you only make RPGs, you kind of get in the mindset of only solving problems in the RPG mindset. And I think that can be a problem. So
I don't know if that is a problem from like actually designing them, because you can still apply lessons learned from other genres.
But like it becomes sort of, I guess when I think of a developer who has like pumped out 50 RPGs and nothing else, it sort of feels like that person is just making an RPG that's exactly like all other RPGs, kind of. And that's not really interesting to me. I'd rather have an RPG that does something new. Right?
That's really interesting, because when I think about it, I think about games that like, so they'll have their own like style or quirk. Like the person making that genre or whatever will have a taste about how things should be, and that will like refine over time. And so I think RPGs is, but
I think RPGs is a very funny example, because basically all RPGs that are released that are at least successful are based on D&D, right? And D&D fucking sucks. So like the D&D system, I guess. And I think the reason why I think this way when I see RPGs is because, damn, if someone made an RPG that wasn't based on D&D, that would be pretty great, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the sort of the danger that could happen, is that, oh, you have a guy who's made 50 RPGs and they're all based on D&D, which is so fucking boring.
Well, I think your problem there is you're thinking that, right? Whereas I'm thinking more exploratory. So if you're making a lot of, like we mentioned, we've already established that you should make many games, right? Yeah. Which means you can take more risks. Mm-hmm. Which means that if you're making RPGs, for example, then you can make a lot of really weird RPGs and see what works and what doesn't. And you're not gonna, I don't think you're gonna get that same value from making like Tetris likes or whatever for your RPGs. Playing, for sure. Playing, you need to play a lot of different games. But making a Tetris like, I don't know if that's gonna help you. I mean, everything may help you. Whatever you make helps you. But as much as making... Because you could make the Tetris RPG or whatever, right, instead. Yeah. And I think that would be more valuable than making a pure... Because then you're just like... the problem is that like design is refined over time. So if you're changing genre, you need to go back to the basics. So you're not experimenting in that genre. You might get new ideas, which I agree with, right? You like it will help you in your main genre, but you don't have the like if you're making a turn-based RPG versus like an action platformer, the things you need to think about are completely different in terms of like design and structure and code and every art and everything, right? So you're back to square one when you're making the other genre.
Yeah. I think one way to look at what I'm trying to say is, I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, maybe not. But like a lot of game designers are approaching making a game like, oh yeah, it's this but with a twist, right?
Yeah.
It's a roguelike deck builder, but you are something.
Yeah, and that
And I
doesn't work.
think what happens, obviously that's bad design. But I think what ends up happening a lot of the times, if you have someone who focuses on RPGs, for example, is that they have like a base RPG that they make.
Yeah.
And then every RPG that they make is that with a twist. And you could argue that, oh well, yeah, they're just bad designers then. But I think
I would
that
argue
if
that.
those,
but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But like if those designers, because the problem is that they're making the same game with a different twist.
Yeah.
They need to make a fundamentally different game, and I think making a lot of different kinds of games that aren't RPGs, gives you the experience that you need to make a fundamentally different game in the same genre, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to tie this back to the topic because I have
very off topic.
No, it's not actually that off topic.
I guess.
But I'm gonna bring up a developer here to like change your mind again. No, I'm not gonna change your mind, but I'm gonna. It's gonna. I'm gonna make a point first though, and that is like we mentioned earlier. We didn't mention it yet. But we talked about this like perfection thing, right? And how they're making these super games or whatever, right? And a big issue with that is that if you look at developers that made many games, it's never really clear which one is going to be the best one.
Yeah.
So this ties back to what we were just saying, right? If you make 50 RPGs, it's more likely that you make a good one. It's not necessarily the last one might not necessarily be the best one, but if you make more RPGs, you're gonna make better one. Like it's more likely that one of them is great, right?
Yeah.
And so the example I was gonna bring up is Cave, which is an arcade developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a very clear example of like the standpoint I have on this, right?
Yeah.
Where they made like they were basically very. I haven't looked at, but it seemed like they didn't have that much money, right? And they tried to make games for the Japanese arcades, and Japanese arcades were dying, and they were doing it in the 2000s, right? So it's like slowly dying, and they so it got harder and harder over time. So they needed to make a lot of games. I don't know how many. I think they made almost like one a year or like one every other year. I think it was like one a year. So which is really like that might be like pushing it, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at what they produced, there is like a lot of variety actually. But they only made bullet hell shoot 'em ups.
Yeah.
I mean, they did like some visual novels and stuff as well, but that doesn't matter. Like again, we said you could do like some other stuff, right? But my point is that other stuff is not like no one talks about that, right? Everyone talks about their shoot 'em ups because they made so many shoot 'em ups, right? They were really experienced in that, and you can see like it's not like they really tried. So like if you look at the examples, right? Well, for example, like DoDonPachi, which is a very popular one. Where like it's very like like the way that game works is like very you like chain score and stuff, right? And it's hard to explain, right? But the point I'm trying to make is that the even though they only made shoot 'em ups, there was a lot of variety in how they worked if you understand shoot 'em ups. You see what I'm saying? So like if you look at their games, it's like, oh, that's just the same game with a different skin. But if you play the games, there's a lot of nuance in how they worked. And that, you don't get that if you don't produce a lot of games and in the same genre.
Yeah.
And that's my argument, right? And it does depend on, I think it does depend on the people a bit. Because I think some people might get more out of doing more varied things.
Yeah.
Like they might, this getting stale thing, like you said, right? They'll just go in the same circle, right? But I think for the like, yeah, that's my argument, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we've come to the conclusion that it depends.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It does depend.
Yeah.
And also that's kind of like that's good as well, because you like, let's say we run game studios, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would have different approaches, right? Which means we would, which would be good, right? Because there would be variety in like if the people running the studios think the same, that's lame, right?
Yeah, because like bringing up my example from before, you know, Clay makes, their kind of thing is that they make a bunch of random games in very random genres. Games. Whereas Cave's thing is that they make only shmups, or shmups.
Unfortunately, no more money.
True. Aren't they making mobile phone games?
They are making mobile shmups now.
Yeah,
exactly. I think they're actually doing way better now than they did before, but you know,
not
unfortunate,
to be honest. Yeah. I think that's a good point to bring up, that with Cave is that, you know, you said they made a bunch of shmups and a bunch of other games, and only a few of their games are still remembered today and like still played today, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I would say it's like a handful, right? So like 5 or 4 or what. I mean, obviously, if you know about them more, you know a lot of them, right? I know a lot of them. But if you just ask a random if you ask a random person, no one knows who they are. Yeah. But if you ask a random... I only
know DoDonPachi and Mushihimesama. Yeah. That's it, like. Yeah. And I don't play very many shmups.
Yeah.
But the point I'm wanting to make here, or I'm wanting to move on to, is that, you know, today a lot of people are complaining about, like, there's so much competition. It's like I release my game and no one buys it because there are so many games. And, you know, if you look at something like Concord, for example, that we spoke about earlier, they spent 8 years on that game and it was a massive flop.
Yeah.
And the point I want to make is that if you develop more games, first of all, it doesn't matter if some of your games flop. Secondly, you have a larger chance of making a hit.
Yeah.
And this is like pure quantity over quality mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like, say that the people...
Sorry to interrupt you, but I don't even think it does translate like that. Like you say, it's quantity over quality, but I think the quality becomes higher anyways. Sorry, continue.
Which we talked about previously. It's like when you make more games, you get better. But like even if you don't get better, is kind of the thing I'm trying to say. Like even if you stay at the same skill level and you make games that are like exactly as good as each other.
Yeah.
Which it's like if you make 10 games...
You do, but yeah.
Yeah. If you make 10 games over the course of 10 years, you know... Yeah. Or let's look at this the other way. If you make one game over the course of 10 years, that game is going to have to sell enough copies so that you make 10 years worth of money and a little bit more so that you can keep developing, right? That's an insane amount of money. Mm-hmm. And that's also like the number one reason for why a bunch of AAA studios are being closed like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they're expecting, like all of the AAA studios are, you know, putting all their eggs in one basket. They're making one massive game, and when it flops, you know, like Concord, they shut down because, oh shit, we spent 8 years and what was it, like $400 million on this game and no one bought it.
Insane number,
Yeah. But like, if the people who made Concord had released a game a year or a game every other year, it wouldn't have mattered as much at all if the first one was a complete flop.
Yeah.
Because they still have if they made the first game in 2 years, they would still have 6 years of money left, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like, if they made smaller games, maybe they wouldn't have gotten the investors and whatever. But like in this hypothetical example where there's like a set amount of money,
Yes.
It's like, first of all, a flop doesn't matter as much because you're only losing 2 years of income instead of 8. But second of all, if they make 4 games in that span of 8 years, the odds of like one of them becoming a smash hit randomly because some streamer played it or whatever increases dramatically.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that you should make more games because you diversify your investment.
Yeah.
talking like a true investor here, because like the number one advice that investment people give you when you start is like, don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Which is
don't
what the
just
AAA
buy one
studios
stock.
are doing.
Yeah, like don't just buy Apple stock because you hope that it's gonna increase by 200%. You should buy a bunch of stock, and then some go well and some go poorly.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's exactly what all game developers are doing. They're putting all their eggs in one basket. They're spending all their money on Concord. And it's like, oh shit, this didn't work. Okay, we shut down then, I guess, because that was the only thing that we could make money from.
Yeah.
It's such a weird mindset to have.
Yeah, another good, interesting point there is as well is that if you're making, what did you say, 4 games in 8 years, right?
Yeah.
You're also you're gonna have dedicated fans that are gonna buy all of them.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get some even if the game is worse, it's sort of like this sort of quotation mark subscription style model where you would you would get some steady income from the people that are dedicated, even if it's not the smash hit, right?
Yeah.
And then some games will make more and some will make less, but still some people are dedicated to your franchise or whatever whatever your company or they know you, they just like your games, right? And they just buy them all even if they're not the best one.
And I also think this is super relevant for indie developers as well.
Oh yeah.
Because if you spend, I think it's even more relevant here, because if you spend 4 years making a game, for example, the first game you release, you're gonna release after 4 years, right? And nobody's gonna know about the game unless you've done a bunch of marketing, and so you're kind of starting from scratch there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've made 4 games over the course of 4 years, after you release the first game, you're gonna get some fans, and then the second game, your old fans are gonna buy, and then you're gonna get some new fans, and then the third game, you're gonna get even more fans, and by the time you release your 4th game, you're gonna have maybe not a big fan base at all, maybe it's just a handful of people, but if you're talking really indie, but even that is better than just releasing your game with no one who cares, right?
And I think another thing there is that people do care about that stuff, even I don't know, I haven't seen that much discussion about it, but I feel it does matter that if you said, if you're a studio that pumps out a game, because if you're making smaller indie games, if you're making platformers and stuff, you can actually make them pretty fast if you know what you're doing. Let's say you're taking 1 to 2 years, right? That's gonna establish you among the people playing your games as someone that keeps putting out games, and I think people value that a bit because they want how should I say this, if you make 1 game and then nothing more, it's okay, I mean, it might be, if it's not a hit, then no one is gonna care, but if you're putting out games over time, you're gonna, like you said, it's gonna bring more people in, but not only that's not the only thing, right? It's sort of this thing where people will come back because they know you're there, right? They're oh yes, I know this guy or this team, right, is making a game every 1 to 2 years. So I'm gonna keep coming back to their products because I know there's gonna be more, right? They are invested in your style of game because they know it's not the last of your style of game as well, because they want more of it.
I think that's actually pretty funny because this summer sale, I'll just take a personal example here from me. Some of you may know, I think I mentioned it before, I'm a massive fan of Steven's Sausage Roll. It's the best game ever, or one of the best games ever. And it's made by Steven Lavelle, also known as Ink Repair, so shout out to him. He's a fantastic game developer. And this summer sale, I saw that all of his games were in a bundle on Steam. And I was like, damn, I really loved Steven's Sausage Roll. I should just buy this bundle with all of his games that are on Steam. and try them out. Like, even though I haven't looked at the games, even though none of the games like looked super much like something I'd played before.
Yeah.
I bought the bundle, and you know, one of the games that was on there was English Country Tune, which is another puzzle game that he's done.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, shit, this is pretty fun. So that's like what I'm playing right now. It's like, you don't get that if you only release one game every 4 or 8 years.
Yeah. Or one ever, like, which is common with
Yeah.
indie devs. They like make one,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't the great hit,
Yeah.
and then they don't do more anymore.
Yeah, like Hollow Knight.
Well, I mean,
You
in,
know,
in their defense, they did actually.
Yeah, they had a
made-
massive hit.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I kind of understand. Like,
Yeah.
I would. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, well, they made so much money, why didn't they make more games? But it's like, if you make that much money instantly, it's kind of hard to like. Because they probably like scaled up the studio and stuff, and it's hard to like overnight like that, I think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, now we have all this money, now we can like really focus on the next game, and then it like they overfocused or whatever. Yeah, but that's
Yeah, because Hollow Knight is also a pretty big game. Like, I would say that Hollow Knight suffers from this like perfectionism, like spend a bunch of time, like the original.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's a very big game and it's very ambitious and so on. It's not a small game, right? That someone's just pushed out.
I mean, I think you could. I mean, you could probably scale it down a little bit. I don't know, but you can make.
Yeah, like but I'm talking about like
in a reasonable amount of time.
Like the original Hollow Knight, when it released, it was already like a pretty big.
Oh yeah,
game.
They probably spent a lot of time. Yeah, but I think in
They
terms of what
probably
is
spent
in that game, I think you could make something of that scale in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, but what you're saying is they spent a lot, which that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything more you want to bring up?
I think we covered most of it.
Yeah. I guess there's one point
Yep.
that we haven't talked about a lot, and that's sort of. I think you sort of touched on the topic a bit earlier when you were talking about like having studios who specialized and then you switch the people around.
Yeah.
But it's that, and I also sort of touched on it when I talked about the all eggs in one basket thing. But it's that the way AAA studios are structured is kind of weird.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I think you mentioned this, but you didn't specify specify it like that, which is you should like have multiple projects going. I don't think, like, if you're a small indie studio, I don't think you should have multiple projects going at once. I think you should have one project going at once.
Yeah.
But if you're a bigger studio, I definitely think you should have more projects going at once, for sure.
Yeah.
Because a funny aspect about game development is that, so this is more like company stuff, right? But it's what a lot of the bigger studios are trying to solve at the moment is how to make game design work parallel.
Yeah.
So how can we do things at the same time? And what you end up with if you do that, this is a bit off topic, right? It's like you do the like Ubisoft stuff where you like have everything cut out. Like, you know, it's like, okay, like you have these mechanical things like, at Radio Tower, this kind of quest, right? And then you have multiple people doing this in parallel.
Yeah.
So the design gets completely ruined. So that I think that approach is not good at all. And the only solution is, like you said, I mean, this is again one basket, which is also bad, right? But if you instead have like 5 projects going with like smaller teams, and smaller as, I mean, they don't have to be tiny, right? And also you can parallelize like art and code and stuff more than design. I think design is very, you need like a handful of people doing the design.
Yeah.
I don't think the design by committee stuff is working at all. You need like someone with taste to be like more hands-on, I guess. So like, I mean, depending on the size of the studio, I think you're completely correct there, where you want like you want them overlap. So like let's say you have 5 projects going at the studio, and then you can release one a year or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that
to cover each other's costs.
Yeah. Because if you have smaller teams, because right now, for example, Battlefield 6, let's take Battlefield as an example, because we've been talking about this earlier. There are like 3 or 4 studios working on it. It's like over 1,000 people.
Yes.
And you don't need 1,000 people. And how long was it? Like 4 years to make a video game?
Yeah.
That's actually insane.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you maybe put like let's be generous and like still put a pretty big team on this.
Yeah.
Let's put a team of like 200 people on Battlefield 6.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but then you can still parallelize it times 5, right? If it's 1,000 people.
But here's the thing, like then you have 800 people left.
Yeah.
Right. And so you put 200 of those on another game,
yeah.
and then 200 on another game, and so on. And all of a sudden, you're making 5 games at the same time.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't matter if your games take 5 years to complete.
Yes, yeah.
Because you're releasing one every year. It's like you can make the team smaller and make the games take longer, but they're not going to take longer because a smaller team is going to make it go faster because the teams are so bloated.
I would still argue you want to make the iteration time per team faster than it is today because you want more skill.
They become that by default because like there's so much bloat in an organization with 1,000 people that are making.
I mean, it does take longer.
That's like unreasonable.
Yeah, I agree.
So making a smaller team would make, like what I'm saying is that making the team smaller would make the development faster, but it wouldn't matter if the development is faster because you would be releasing more games.
Yep. That is true.
Yeah. I think I've ranted enough today. Do you have anything more you want to say?
I mean, we could probably go on forever, but I think
we could. But this is a reasonable endpoint, I think.
I agree.
So, our message for today is that developers should make more games.
Yes.
Yes.
Quantity over quality.
Yes, but it also becomes quantity with time, as we've discussed.
Quality over time, yes.
Did I say quantity? I mean quality.
Yeah.
Yes. It also becomes quantity.
It becomes quantity and quality, and then we have a lot of games, and all of them are nice, and that's good.
Yes.
I like lots of good games.
Yes.
I don't know.
Because right now there's a few bad games
also,
and nothing else.
Like super tiny side point. There's people saying that there's like that it's bad that there's many games, and I don't understand what they're talking about. Like I want more games, and I want more good games. Yes, sorry, that's it.
We could argue about that for you, but let's end the episode
here.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.